came up with the theory of natural selection. But before we do any of this, we should first answer the quiz question. Dun, 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 dun. So, the quiz question from last episode was dun, 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 dun. Which German scientist proved that all plants were made out of cells? The answer is dun 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 dun. Matthias Schleiden. Okay, now that we answered the question, you might be thinking, well, let's just slide into evolution. But before we talk about how Darwin's theory was made, we first need to talk about an older theory. Introducing new contender, Lamarckism. Dun 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 dun. So you're probably wondering why this giraffe is here. Well, this is my friend here, Giraffes demonstratus. And you're probably wondering why he's featured in a video. Well, it's because he can serve as a very good example of Lamarckism. But let me back up. What exactly is Lamarckism? So, what is Lamarckism? Well, it was basically thought of by a French scientist by the name of Jean-Baptiste Lamarck. And basically the theory goes that components of the organism are stronger by use and weaker by disuse. And these strength and weakness traits got passed on into the offspring. Now, if you don't understand what that means, a basic analogy will help you. Now, we have our friend Giraffes demonstratus, and he has a problem. He can't reach the trees, which is where he wants to be because they're yummy, yummy food for him. So, he just stretches his neck until it's long enough for him to eat the tree leaves. Now, the child of the giraffe, according to Lamarckism, will also have a stretched out neck, which means he doesn't have to go to the effort of stretching their neck. Now, this all sounds like a really good theory and all, but it has two major flaws. Number one, if every animal evolved like this, then why do bacteria exist? Because after all, bacteria will also have evolved into higher forms, as Lamarck describes them, but they haven't. Bacteria are one of the most common organisms on Earth. So explain that, Lamarck. Another problem with this theory is that it can also be easily explained with mutations. Now, I'm going to talk about mutations in a few minutes, but basically, they're another way of explaining why giraffes have tall necks. And it will equally explain why giraffes' necks are so long. Also, here's the thing. Mutations are just better suited to explain giraffe's neck because stretching a neck, if you may have fittest is a tiny bit difficult. So, Lamarckism has a hard time explaining how they would stretch its neck. But evolution neatly circumvents that problem, as we see later. So, we have these 3 points that completely undermine Lamarckism. Now you may be asking, well, how does evolution explain all of this? Well, to talk about that, we first need to know a bit about the man who thought up all this evolution stuff. We're talking about Charles Darwin. So, Charles Darwin, now he used to be an ordinary guy studying at Cambridge with an ordinary family, all that stuff. But then, in 1831, he got a message. The message was from a man named Captain Fitzroy. He was the captain of HMS Beagle, the second voyage of HMS Beagle after the captain of the first voyage had unexpectedly died. He had taken over the reins and he needed a biologist slash geologist slash collector slash naturalist to help him out with the voyage. And Darwin seemed like the perfect guy. So he hired and he went for what it was advertised as a 2-year voyage. It was not 2 years. It was 5 years. Now, Darwin first landed at Santiago, Cape Verde, and he made some interesting discoveries. In geology, that is. But fantastic geology is not going to happen right now. Now we're talking about fantastic biology. So let's just fast forward until he lands in South America. He finds strange fossils, including that of a gigantic sloth. And it seems that the fossils indicate that they were adapting to their climates, but not in the way that Lamarck thought. But anyway, this was just some random side project. Darwin didn't care that much about it. Then he landed in the Galapagos Islands. Now he spotted finches there. Now he was basically like, this is a type red finch, this is a blue finch, this is a green finch, blah blah blah. He wrote all this in his diary. Fast forward, he goes to New Zealand, he goes to Australia, he goes back to Africa, and he's back in Wales. Now, when he lands back, he is suddenly greeted with a new membership of the Royal Society. Brilliant! But in that exact same meeting, another biologist revealed that there wasn't just a red finch, a blue finch, and a green finch, but in reality, 12 different finch species. Now Darwin thought, all of these finches have different beak shapes. And these beak shapes seem to be adapted to the different climates they live. And so he started work on The Origin of Species, a book that would later take the world of biology by storm. But enough chit-chat, let's talk about what Darwin's actual concepts were. So, Darwin's theory of natural selection can basically be explained with a few main pillars. Pillar number 1, all organisms have a set of predetermined traits. Now, today we call them genes, but in Darwin's time they were just traits, ? About the same time, a Czech monk was planting plants all over the place, bees I don't know if that's going to explain how genes work. Oh, it's a topic for our next video. But that's our next video, not for now. Anyway, these traits determine an organism's, let's say, skin tone, hair color, etc. Now, point 2. The traits of an organism are determined by the traits of its parents plus some random noise, which we now call mutations. Now, theorem number 3 states that the traits that make an organism have more children, these traits get passed down to the next generation, which makes them have even more babies, which get passed down to the next generation, which makes them have even more babies, and soon they just utterly dominate everyone else. Now, you probably think that 20 babies versus 21 babies isn't that big of a deal, but when we start talking about exponential growth, it makes a huge difference. And after Corona, basically everyone's an expert on exponential growth, but as I was saying, just a few extra babies makes a big difference in population count. So these are the 3 main pillars of Darwinism. And that ends the video. There totally can't be some sort of quiz question or anything that I forgot. Oh wait, it's the main part of the final minutes of the video. Oh my god. So, the quiz question for today's video is, what ship was Darwin invited to sail on? Now, tell me your answers and I'll see you in the next video where we talk about that checkmate who was planting peas. I wonder if he would change the world of biology forever. Well, there's only one way to find out, as to keep watching the Funtastic Academy.